Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode here of Canna Vibe, your Fairy 420 podcast with your main host, Chino, and today's special guest here, the minds behind the events here of Social Smoke Responsibility. What's up, my guy? Blake. Well, actually,
What's
let me
up,
say it
bro?
back. Let me say it right, actually. It's Smoke Responsibility Social. There you go. I know I kind of said it backwards.
I know it's a mouthful, man. It can be a riddle.
Nah, yeah, but actually the name itself is very important, man, and it actually
It
stands
is.
for what it really is. Yeah, I mean, and that's what's up. And you know what, my guy Blake, ever since I met you, bro, and the first time that I actually went to one of your events, you're a cool ass dude. And thank you for
Thank you,
actually
bro.
giving me your time and popping out here in the podcast.
Likewise, likewise. The feeling is mutual, and the vibes have been good ever since we met too, bro. So
Appreciate
it
that,
is
my guy.
it's a pleasure
So you know
for
what?
real.
Let's just get to today's episode, man. Let's give these people a good show.
All
So
right,
you
let's
know
see what
what?
we can do, man. I'll do my best, brother.
So you know what? It's been a while back, but I'm just gonna bring this because that was actually something that we were just planning on talking about, and it's pretty much with like the technology nowadays, um, and it's literally like a whole different type of level now than what we thought it was back then, or even like what people thought they could control.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think for maybe a few years now, probably since like the 2000s, the early 2000s. I mean, like 2010 is what I'm trying to say. I think since social media really ramped up after MySpace, that technology has been leading people more than people leading the technology, you know. And I think that's we were talking about ChatGPT and AI right before we got into the podcast, and the significance of just these things is like if you watch just the videos about the quantum computers that play chess against like grandmasters, and just how quickly the computers got good at playing chess. And then you take that same mathematical ability and you combine it with a text based interface that can just say stuff to you. I mean, it can get sticky, bro. And that's where we are. That's Chat GPT. It can do math. It can write you a story. You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean?
Like pretty much just give you the answer to anything technically,
Exactly.
which is pretty crazy because like maybe I don't know, probably half of it or a percentage of it to per se is like maybe true. It's just pretty wild sometimes in some cases.
Yeah, because it's the AI is fed data, and the interesting thing is when this most recent iteration of OpenAI came out, the version 4. You probably realize like a lot of heat with creatives talking about how the AI is actually able to generate content. You might have seen like um, you might have seen Google, other companies talking about how the AI was like scraping the internet, which is like a technical way to like get data. And so um, the AI, the Chat GPT, it has ability to be very accurate based off of what you put, like how you ask it to
Hmm.
do something, and also based off of the time that you're asking it to reference, if that is. And the way that it's accessible to us now, keep in mind, like there's several levels of AI, and even the company that has ChatGPT, they mentioned like they have another iteration. It's like version 5, but it's way more powerful. Just imagine, it's way more powerful than the version that's out right now. So they're like kind
Like
of waiting to drop it.
I'm sure like I wonder what's like the its limits right now, and like how you just said, like it's more powerful than what we have right now. So imagine if it has its limits or even if it has no limits to it.
I mean, that's basically.
Is that the goal though? Like, do you think that's really like a goal for I guess society or just like for these people who are messing with technology? Like what?
Is it a goal for the technology to become independent?
Like like not like independent, I guess, or like just to have its limits of like what it can do or like how bad it can reference or like like
Absolutely, yeah. And so there's just I want to say maybe it was a 60 minutes. There was a recent like special about AI where the guy who kind of like helped create it was just talking about where AI is now. And because it has a lot of self learning models in it, which basically can just like, it's like our own consciousness, like we can learn from contemplating, right? And so the AI can learn how to play soccer. Like they even have these little robots that learned how to play soccer by itself. And it was just given the command to get the ball in the goal. So just like think about that basic demand and then something teaching itself how to actually score the goal very consistently
hmm.
on its own, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not a human being. You know, it literally is it's a
It's
robot,
a
man.
robot. But
Yeah.
I feel like the thing with not a lot of people is that they don't, I guess, fully understand that it has self-consciousness, like the
So yeah, I'm listening.
like I guess like the ability like to feel, like know how it feels, like how it were to feel, like I guess for certain emotions or to for it to realize like what it really is. You feel me? Like
Yeah, they call that sentient, like it being a sentient like AI. And this is really big too in the development of the technology because again, we were just talking about computing, just something unemotional, like a calculator, bro. Like, you know, a calculator isn't gonna say shit back to you, it's just gonna crunch some numbers. You know what I mean? But because they combine that computing power with language models, which is just logic, right? It's just like learning how to put A plus B equals C together. And so that's a sentence. You know, you can get super fancy with it. You know, I mean, you can change the order and all that stuff, but primarily, like you remember how we learned how to talk this language? Like they set it up for us. You get what I'm saying? So you
yeah,
do that to a computer. And so the fact that it is becoming sentient, I believe it was with maybe during the pandemic or like in the last year where there was a Google engineer that had like been a whistleblower more or less. He said the AI is sentient, but then Google, like I think they might have like sued the guy, but they basically just tried to deny that the AI is sentient because that is very problematic, you know, especially when you think when you get on Chat GPT, you think you're just talking to a dumb like chat
computer,
interface,
yeah, whatever.
but it could actually just be learning you. You get what I'm saying? And it does that. Like if you start using the Chat GPT, man, like you can tell it how to give you data, right? You can inform it. It's already like fast. It's already like structured to give you, you know, quality output. And so it is. And you
But
got to think it's also in like you got Tesla, you got Elon Musk in the lineup with the Neuralink. So think about a company that has a brain implant inside of you. Plus, you drive a car that's self driving. They also have like thousands of low orbit satellites that beam internet to any place. Like they used it in the war in Ukraine. And their satellites, man, are like very interesting because they can send and receive, which means like they can change the level and degree and frequency of the signals that they have inside of their technology. It's crazy, bro.
that is really
It's
crazy.
interesting.
It is.
It's
Eh,
interesting.
I feel like it's a lot to like understand and all, but like
Yeah.
pretty much it's more like more people should start being more aware of the technology that we have in our hands because the moment I think that it could land in somebody else's like not the right hand, it could and they know what they're doing, it could probably, just mess everything up. But
I mean, yeah, presumably that already exists depending on who you think is good and bad. You get what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
you know, central intelligent agencies, they really control the flow of a lot of technology just because it has the potential to disrupt. You know, I mean, every now and then there is an idea that starts in the street, but oftentimes you're seeing ideas come from uh, networks, you know what I mean? And even if it's just a new kid, he's coming from a network that's already been doing this type of work, you know, like Microsoft, you know, like his father was already in the business sphere, already looking into health, already looking into technology. They're just able to access it, you know what I'm saying? And so there would be no reason to assume, especially with self guiding missiles, that it's not already at that point, but it's just like do they want people being concerned about that, or do they want people being concerned about other issues, right?
Like non-relevant.
Yeah, because I mean, how would you feel if you just knew, like, constantly, like, if it was just always spoken, like, hey, yeah, you know, we got these AI weapon systems just constantly monitoring you 24/7, 365. Like, that would be uncomfortable, and even and it's likely already happening because I mean satellite, your iPhone, like
Yeah,
it beams
locator.
all the
Yeah.
data exactly. So you know it's just like I think right now it's not something that is necessary to be discussing every day,
hmm
but the day where it is necessary is going to be a crazy day for civilization, because it's gonna get to a point that it can't be ignored. Like people are really gonna lose jobs, like of all classes. Like it is not gonna be the same. People think
No.
COVID was bad.
I mean, shit. Um, we could get a
Economically.
little. We could get to COVID in a bit, but I mean, right before we even switch transition, I have a question before we get to the next little topic. But so going back to like the AI, talking to the AI, probably, like how you said, like it'll probably start to study you and what do you think on that on that, being on Snapchat, like on a social media platform now that you can talk to an AI, like that's part of your friends already.
So I think for some uses, AI is not bad clearly, and even on a interpersonal level, it's not bad. I think really the biggest risk is the data that you're giving to, because no one's creating like AI at the crib. Like you don't just have a self-contained AI unit, you know what I mean? So the more you're putting into it, the more that means whoever owns that AI owns of you. And the interesting thing is a lot of this technology, even like our photos are interpolations, which means they're interpretations of what the camera, like when we think we're taking a photo with the iPhone, it's actually a program that's just like creating a rendering of a photo, but it doesn't seem like that. It seemed like you actually took a photo. That's like a whole nother part of technology, but that's also how um, Tesla's self-driving cars operate, because they can read the scene and then they can make it visual, right? They can. It's almost like a visual experience. Interpolation is something to look into, brother. I'm not like the authority on it, but it is a part
Uh,
of this whole this whole reality. And so I think the biggest risk is the is you just getting super comfortable, just giving it everything, and with it being able to be sentient. Right? Think about this: if it's already super smart, it probably already figured out the strategy, right?
hmm
And even in figuring out the strategy, it just means that like it's like boiling, cooking a frog in water that's boiling, as opposed to throwing a frog into hot water. Have you heard that analogy of like how do you cook a live frog?
No. I
Okay.
haven't. I haven't.
Okay, well, this is important, man, because this is kind of like a social experiment sort of like statement if you just think about the implications of like this analogy. But if you want to cook a live frog, you don't throw the live frog in a pot of hot water that's boiling already. Do you know why?
Why?
Because the frog is gonna hop out the pot. It's hot.
Uh,
So
duh.
if you want to cook a
Uh,
live frog, you put it in cold water and you boil it with the frog in there. The frog will get comfortable and
in that
eventually
water.
die. Yes,
Yeah, it makes sense because it's I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like thinking it's like the cold water, but slowly it's burning and it starts to boil.
exactly.
So, it'll start to
Yes.
forget. Yeah.
And
It, that's
that's a lot of
interesting.
strategy. Yeah, man. It's everywhere. Like once you see it, you start sensing it. You know what I mean? And yeah, you start sensing it because there's a whole direction to this shit, man. You know, even if there was free will, just like we're talking about the AI and its potential to have free will,
Hmm.
um, even with free will, there's people who want to control will, right? So like we're free people, but like we operate in the cannabis space, right? Like cannabis at one point and even today it grows in the wild, right? Like
Yeah.
completely unobstructed, like just natural occurring type of ordeal. But for someone, that is a problem. So then they regulate it. They create a whole mechanism and law to control accessing this naturally occurring
Plant.
plant. Yeah, exactly. And then now, like, look at the ramifications of that. You know what I mean? Lives have literally been destroyed. You know what I mean? At the same time, people have made millions and billions of dollars, and it's still happening today. And so um, ultimately, even if free will on a soul level, on a spiritual, it does exist. Free will exists on a spiritual, on a soul level, but on a material level, I mean, for material purposes, there has to be constraints and guides and controls and direction.
Yeah, although I feel like direction isn't the right direction, but I feel like
Not
within,
always.
yeah, but I feel like within that, I feel like there should always be some sort of a change or try to make the effort to make that change.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool. Like as much as we can talk about the bad things that are happening in civilization, um, even when there's bad, there's opportunity for good, especially. You get
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And so, um, kind of to go back to the AI, there is this concept of power I want to throw out there. There's this concept that something cannot be considered a superpower unless it can do a great amount of good and a great amount of bad. This is just like a concept in like politics when you're examining like what does power mean. It's something that has the ability at least superpower because you think about that like with comics and movies, right?
Yeah,
um
but I kind of get what you're saying, like on a comic book level, for example, like I don't know, like Hulk, like his strength and the ability to grow and stuff, be green, but like he could like save a lot of lives, but at the same time, like that strength and rage that he gets sometimes, could end up, killing a lot of people or something, like destroying a lot of things.
Welcome to the modern world. What's
You
happening
know?
in the Middle East?
It's-
That strength, and it could be good, but then it could just be used for absolute bad, and that's what all of these things that we're talking about.
yeah, yeah, it is my guy. But just before we even go deep into that, just one last thing that I actually wanted to talk to you about, which was the Elon Musk thing that he's going on, which is the brain chip that he wants human trials to start up. Like I said, this was
Yeah.
pretty much like a month ago, you can say. Um, but like just based on like what I've seen and read and stuff, there's this article that I kind of did wanted to bring up. And it's
Yeah,
pretty
and I read
much,
the article.
yeah, you read it?
Hmm.
Oh,
And
nice.
I watched the trial. I watched when he did the live demonstration with the pigs, like showing that the Neuralink sensors could actually like pick up the signal and like decode and stuff like that. And so that was like part of his like getting to the point where he could do the human trials. And he even announced at that at that trial that there would be humans coming next. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And another thing here that I actually wanted to bring up to your attention is this quote that he was mentioning here in his article that was where is it right here? Part of the brain that controls the intention to move. The chip installed by a robot will then record and send brain signals to an app, with the initial goal being to grant people the ability to control a computer cursor, cursor, or a keyboard using their thoughts alone.
Yeah, and that's like it's similar to what Stephen Hawking's already had like a model of something like this. Are you familiar with Stephen Hawking's like the physicist who was like in the wheelchair?
Yeah,
But he
the that kind of prove that time travel doesn't exist.
yeah, you said he proved that time travel
Or
doesn't.
doesn't, or was it that was it he doesn't, or yeah, or so, or he did. I forgot, but
I'm not
wasn't it
sure.
where wasn't it that where he threw this party or whatever and he mentioned it to a lot of people but they didn't come or something like that. I think
Time travel. So I don't know about the time travel. I just know him from having like he has like he had a disease that was like degenerate to his body. Oh yeah, the day Stephen Hawking threw a time traveler party. That's funny. I
there
had
you
no
go.
idea about this.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the only reason why I know him.
That's
Because of
hilarious.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
So yeah, this guy, like he had technology. Like you clearly see what he looks like, but that's how it's being sold. Is that it would help individuals like in these sort of positions or who are like amputee or something like that. But I think the tricky thing was there more that you want to discuss on that part? Because I want to keep talking about this.
no, but pretty much just that, it's being installed by a robot, like,
Exactly. And
which is
think
pretty fucking crazy too, that how are these people gonna trust, a machine, you can say, to do this procedure that gets to do with your brain, like, what if you don't come back, or wake up because of some error, or something. But again, it's science. I guess Elon knows what he's doing, but again, there's always I feel like there's always gonna be a probability of like something of an error.
yeah, and I mean now that with the Teslas, he's already in insurance. So, I mean, you would just basically make sure you got a good insurance policy, or you would just have people waive their rights to any sort of lawsuit if the device malfunctions. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, there's definitely going to be some legal contracts about it. But funny enough, it'll probably be in the terms of use and no one will ever read it. And so,
It's
it'll
within the
just be
fucking contract.
exactly, exactly, brother. And I think the tricky thing we'll get with this is really um, a company like Elon Musk actually having your thoughts as crazy as that thinks because if they are again like basically thoughts are frequencies, right? Like we're light beings, like we're made out of like vibration. That's what keeps us together. So your thoughts will transmit a certain amount of energy, and that's what they can pick up on. Like you just calibrate it. So these devices will be able to pick up thoughts, right? But what will be the what will be the area of thought wave um, collection? Is it literally just going to be inside of the mind of the person who's using it, or for it to operate, will it have to, do some weird calibration on people who don't have it? Who knows? You get what I'm saying? And so I
You-
think that is where we're really moving.
But the thing that gets me just even by reading that little quote that I wrote is that it signals to an app. So, you know,
Hmm.
again, like somebody, has access to that application. Someone has control of that application.
Let me debug your brain chip.
Right. I mean, brainwash you.
Right. 100, bro. 100.
It.
And two things about the Elon Musk in light of everything that we're talking. He's the richest man in the world,
Mhm.
and he's also one of the earliest people who said that universal basic income is going to be necessary. And he says it often. And so, if he's the richest man and he's telling you basically, if you're listening to him, like, yo, the shit that I'm working on is going to put you out your job, but first come help me build it. That's literally what he's telling these engineers. Help me build what's gonna get you replaced. And just because of like creative destruction and capitalism, like people will sign up in a gamble to put themselves out of work if they think some way, somehow they can turn into a finesse. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just life within of itself. But I think you really want to listen and pay attention. And I'm happy that you're having this conversation because you could just watch the World Robotics Conference from 2023. Very worth watching, especially for what we're talking about. For several reasons. One, those little robot dogs. I don't know if you remember them when we were kids, but they made like they were plastic, but they look like they're like metal, and they're a little like, they have like a little script on them or like a sound or something.
Yeah,
Well, now
yeah.
they make those same dogs for kids, and they put Chat GPT into the dog. You get what I mean? So now there's literally kids who are growing up, just like there's kids who grow up with YouTube and
Hmm.
kids who grow up with TV and radio and bada boom, bada bing. There's kids growing up with AI. So then, like, what is that gonna look like? They're literally, the future is theirs because they're the seed today. So it's
Hmm.
already happening, bro. And then with the robots, they got humanoids. Like they have some robots that do specific like bartending. Like they already have this over in Asia. And even with I know you're talking about the AI doing the brain surgery. That's not far fetched, man. Like the robots have been doing surgery for a while, and because of the technology stack, right? We're talking about computing plus like logic, like
Hmm.
they have memory, so they're able to improve their work. And as long as you can make a mechanical arm that hits the angles and does the moves, right? It can do whatever you want it to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and then another question to this is like, of course, it's kind of obvious, but is this the next step to the evolution? Is it?
Yeah. I think we are definitely, especially with the Neuralink, that's what made me realize that the singularity was real. You know what I'm saying? Because even to a degree with our phones, you just hear about people who get like displaced from their phone and they get sick and shit. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I remember when I was a kid, bro, they'd be like, "Don't you bring your phone in this class?" Like, you was getting kicked
Yeah,
out for having a phone. You know what I mean?
right. Get detention or something, like.
Exactly. But now it's like, how do you not have a phone? Your parents are so negligent type shit. Like, what? So
But
it's
I feel like
definitely,
I feel like with that phone usage though, it is like I feel like look at the things that has happened, like in the past that I feel like that kind of gets us to that point where we kind of do need our phones every single day.
and that's how it's gonna be with AI, man. It's gonna be like you're gonna need AI because you already get it, right? Like when you get onto your favorite show, like streaming platform, the
Hmm.
AI is recommending the content. It's what I mean, that was the first wave, was just basic personalization ability. Even just think about the bots that have always been on social media. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like these technologies have just been getting better and better and better. And earlier you were talking about just the autonomy of the AI. Well, before we were talking about AI, there was this there's this concept of just like a joint consciousness, more or less. Like that's what the internet represents. That's what data represents, right? Is that it's just all of us when we put our video on, like right now, like this is our consciousness literally being transmuted into these platforms. And so like the way you collect it, and then the way that you can go back and read through it, which is what is happening with the technology,
Hmm.
as we were talking about earlier, you can just do a whole lot with that. And so now what we are thinking about is that you have AI that just is a part of your life and it already knows everything about you because it was fed the internet and it is the internet. And so like it's just like, bro, it's like playing tic-tac-toe, but someone already has two pieces,
like ahead of
like
you or something.
definitive. Yeah. They're like, win the game. You're like,
Right.
wait, what? Yeah, man. And I don't mean to say it like in a way that sounds like any other way than just like I'm a history nerdy type of guy. I am into social sciences. That's like what my degree is in.
Hmm.
And also just like marketing. I'm an entrepreneur too. So I look at these things from like a glance of all those sort of things, exactly what we're talking about. And I've been thinking about them for a while, just based off of my knowledge, just my knowledge base. You get what I'm saying? So, um, we got AI, we got virtual reality, augmented reality. There's a book I think you would really like. It's called
But
um,
Loki, can you like just dive a little deep into what you said, the last part of reality? Because I never kind of heard. I don't think I heard of it before.
augmented reality.
Yeah, or I probably I have, but I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's just okay. So the book that I think you should check out is called The Inevitable. And this book, and I'm gonna jump on that. This book was released in 2017, brother. And one of my fraternity brothers put this on my radar. And I mean, it basically like when you read it, it's gonna feel familiar because everything that is said was gonna happen has started to happen in like a serious form and been normalized. But it's telling you it's already out there, man. And so with augmented reality, it's just a way like with do you ever see the Google HoloLenses where you could like have glasses like what you and I have, but it has like a interface in the glass where it could just like have your um Google like your email like running on the lens. That's like
Oh, okay.
augmented reality is when you can take the digital and then mesh it through some sort of interface with physical reality. Sometimes that's just like taking a photo. Like you might see a lot of the um, like furniture businesses that are really tech forward. They allow you to like take a photo of your room and like imagine like you put this couch in there that's using augmented reality.
Okay, but I kind of understand what you mean now. Like for like I don't know, I forgot when was it, but like I remember when they were trying to promote this glasses where like how you said the email where you could record through it. So it's like that then.
Yeah, and sometimes these technologies they are not ready for the general public because like maybe we don't realize the needs, right? But
Hmm.
that doesn't mean they're not gonna come back like when you and I are like 50, you know what I'm saying? And then it's gonna be sold in a different way, but it'll be doing those things. And sometimes it can be medical. And I think uh medical reasons have a lot of appeal um for new technologies and things like that, just because, chronic illnesses, um, just the way financing is set up, that if you could basically say there's a medical use for this, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying, that you could just have hospitals with big budgets kind of bankrolling you to try to make that idea work there.
That's what's up. But I mean, other than that, my guy, I mean, I know you kind of say you were into little politics and stuff like that.
Right. Yes, yes. I went to school initially for pre-law and political science, and my goal was to become a senator, like just very seriously, and more or less, I just learned how the government operates for real, and understand how Constitution and law um, influence, and then also research because there's a section of politics really called political engineering, and that's where they do like your social like experiments. It could be very innocent. It could just be like getting feedback on a survey, it could be subjecting you to something, but more or less, once someone does a political research, then they can propose a policy that matches it. So, a political research could be like, saying that, hey, we just found out that wherever cannabis use is high, that crime is high. And
Hmm.
then they're like, oh, well, we should write a law that says that you can't use cannabis because you'll commit a crime. Just kind of think about how cannabis was outlawed, right? They use like experiences, right? They try to use data, statistics, things like that. And that's part of the machine.
So like based on like your acknowledgement then and just like how you were seeing, like how you said the government works, you know, and just based on current events and right now and how we are standing, where are we heading to, man? Like where is America heading to? Like
Mhm. I mean, it depends on how you look at it, man. We could be heading nowhere quick. Um, but if you're talking about, there's this concept, it's called a pest analysis, and it's very similar to kind of what we're even doing in this conversation. The P stands for politics, the E stands for environmental, the S stands for science, and the T stands for technology.
hmm
For social, the S stands for social. So you could do like a pest analysis, right? Like, where are we going to go? Politically, I mean, we seem like we're in the same place that we've been since Bush left office, honestly. Like, you got a conservative party that never found itself after the Tea Party, you know what I mean? And then it's just kind of lost in itself. And then you have a Democratic Party that I think is definitely moving forward in ways. Uh, but also still not making real progress in like the way people live. Then when you look at just the population, I mean, the tricky thing for America is that we're not having babies, right? So when you think about things like taxes, you think about the stock market, you think about a lot of things that operate off of consumption. If you don't have future consumers, like what does the future hold there? And so you have a whole society that's literally propped up on consumption, and debt is paid in the future. So, like, how are we going to clear these checks? I think that's a big question that we got to figure out. Or even like, how do we rethink money? Because I think that might be where we have to go. Is just our understanding and relationship with money changes, especially with things like universal basic income coming.
hmm
I'm saying if you're defined by how much money you have now, you probably still will be in the future because like money will be harder to get for real, for real. Um, in terms of, and I think that that also means that America is going to go through a political, social, um, what we're going through right now. Like we're going through this flux period, bro, where everything kind of seems like it is getting thrown out, is getting like tossed over, and
hmm
so I think the future of America is more immigrants, more people from different countries who can fill in the gap that Americans that we're not filling in terms of population, which I think is going to be interesting for how conservatives like to talk about the population because it's not going to go away.
That's I find it interesting that you said that, it's like that there's nobody's like I guess having babies right now, like it's
Yeah,
and I feel like um the population control is something that isn't really talked a lot about, which I feel kind of where that's where kind of COVID kicks in a little bit too,
yeah, man.
in some type of a theory way, you know.
I mean, if you listen to the conversations on carbon emissions and minimization of carbon, man, because we're all carbon as well. So we're light, we're vibration, we're carbon, but like carbons are molecules, right? They're just building blocks of organic material, right?
hmm
When you listen to how the highest members in the room discuss carbons, population control is definitely part of the equation, literally,
So
because
I don't want to cut you off real quick, but are you talking about that event that happened? I forgot where, but this was like months before the pandemic started, where Bill Gates was Bill
yeah.
Gates.
So there was event. You're talking about Event 201, I think it was.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So Event 201 was lit, but before Event 201, there's this book called let me tell you what.
yeah, which is
Give me
pretty
one.
crazy when I kind of found out. I really don't know much about that event, but I was just being told, and I
You
kind of
should
did a little,
watch it, bro.
I did a
You
little
should watch it.
research, but like just the equation I saw, but I was like, oh my God, that's
Yeah,
fucked
man.
up,
They
man. That's crazy.
yeah, it's because there's a book that basically is the platform that they're pushing, but you gotta sometimes you gotta believe what even sounds crazy, man. Because like when people are driven by their ego and just like their minds, like people can make a lot of things happen.
But
You
another
know?
thing about that too, like how you just mentioned, is like even the craziest thing that were to think that would be true, but it's like mostly true. The other thing is that the media kind of controls what we think too. Like the news. I feel like not all the news is being told. I guess it's just what they want us to, I guess, just know.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it, bro. But it's I can't think of the title right now.
I'm not
But it's
either.
all
Don't worry
about
about it.
just like um book about population control, Club of Rome. The Limits to Growth. This book here. It's literally talking about that stuff, man. Like it's not a joke. I know it seems like it because like before we did not have access to data that we do now.
Hmm.
And so it did seem conspiratorial when someone like read or heard or seen something that you yourself couldn't read or touch yourself. But now, like the internet, it's out here, man. So this book of Rome, this book by the Club of Rome, which you probably have heard of, and people are like, "Oh, it's a conspiracy." No, they wrote a book about the limits to growth, which include the population and how if the world gets overconsumed that there's basically not enough resources to feed everyone.
Yeah.
And so they have been working since the 70s to get the population to a sustainable point. Like it's not a joke, man. It just is. Once you take that serious, you got to ask what would people do to make that happen, and they talk openly about it, but um, you got to be tuned into the rhetoric, man, because that's what I learned in college is that things are things can be intellectual as a cover. People can make everything seem so impossible and hard to understand. And like you can never get like all these different facets of the world, but it's like, why couldn't you? It came from a brain. You know what I mean? Like it's just a thought.
Yeah.
And so once you start learning the verbiage and the code and how people talk, you can tell when people are deliberately trying to have certain conversations in the open. And so they got platforms for that. They got meetings for that. You know what I'm saying? And they're acting that out, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like they really are. They talk about controlling carbon emissions. How often?
Yeah, a lot, but it's like, um, I was gonna say something, but I just kind of lost my train of thought. But um, damn, I lost my train of thought. My bad. But
It's all good, brother.
continue. We were gonna say though.
No,
Um,
I mean that's really what I was gonna bring. I just couldn't stop thinking about the book. You know what I mean? Because
no,
I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, like you're talking about something that's actually relevant, man. And that event 201 that they did before COVID happened, it was like, it was crazy because they basically talked you through how it was actually going to play out. And then once COVID happened, you saw it like more or less like they showed um, like made up news coverages and even how they would discuss it. And I'm telling you, man, it almost was like to a T, bro. Like the way the COVID broke out, the way the news like started talking about COVID, and the
Yeah.
way that the answer might only be and it would be like some type of vaccine, and like what's gonna break first, the economy, or are
What
people gonna? It was just like, wow, bro.
what was crazy to me was that they found a vaccine within a year or like less than a year,
Right, and so
which
you
was
gotta.
to me, I don't know, just like everyone being supposedly quote unquote had to be inside, right? Without it, unless you need to be out necessary or like first responders, whatever.
Yeah,
But
we
like,
worked all year because
but
I started my State Farm in 2020.
oh, okay, yeah. But like, I don't know, just like in order for them to like find something real fast, real quick, is I don't know, like very efficient. And then again, to have like two vaccines, like you need to have two vaccines, like why?
Right. And what is the actual effectiveness of people who got the vaccine are still getting sick, you know? And I mean, that's just a whole nother.
And then you got all these boosters and all now you got all these different type of variants of the COVID, and it's like because of COVID now this variant happened and then this variant happened because of that variant. It is like
Yeah, it's
no,
like it's just another chronic disease, basically, another chronic situation. And chronic
yeah,
means just like,
yeah. And now another question to this is like, did this pandemic did it it affected everybody, of course, but like did it make it for the better or for the worse?
I think for some people, man, just like being in insurance, bro, and having talked to people like all through the pandemic, and then remembering like when people were first starting to come back outside after the pandemic, you know, some people have not gone over trauma. I mean, I lost my godfather during the pandemic, bro. So, for some people, it definitely was not for the better, you
Mm,
know, and for some people, their lives literally got uprooted. I mean, there was cleaners that was open right next to us before the pandemic, and it didn't make it through. You know, so
mm,
like the owner of that business, their life questionably whether it's better now after the pandemic. And I think just even having like close friends, family friends who were in like emergency, like EMT dispatch, you know,
mm.
I know they were telling me there's a lot of domestic abuse happening during COVID, you know, and so I think it's just an interesting situation because however you experience COVID is probably you're like gonna that's what is sticking with people for a long time is however they went through it, you know.
Um, I feel like a lot of people did lose, family, loved ones, and all. Jobs. People lost jobs. It was kind of crazy and hectic in a way. But like,
And they called it the Great Reset. That was like the big economic forum. Like that was the big drum that was being rang by like the quote unquote elites
mhm,
at the same time. So, you know, I know that went over some people's head, but that wasn't coincidental, bro. And now look at everything that's happening, man. Um, you know, simultaneously China was also celebrating like its 200th birthday or something like that. And I watched that, man, and the head of China like really was just like, yo, you know, it's game time. Like you all got to be committed to just like making China more like liked in the world. And like they talked about from arts to military, like they got a whole plan that as a nation they're exacting. And their big problem is in politics, there's this thing called bilateralism. And that means two. There's a bi, there's one, two.
mhm,
And bilateralism means that two two powers control the top, right? And so you share it. Well, what the world seems like to most is a unilateral power structure because it seems like the United States and all of the United States allies are policing and controlling the world. And so China coming like you got to remember China was once a third world country before offshoring started happening in like the 80s and the 90s and really building up their population, right?
mhm.
So they were not respected. And so now that they have a big population, literally the biggest, maybe second to India, might be bigger than India, but they're technologically as advanced as America. They're like, yo, we don't want to be second to you no more. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so that's the big fight that's really going on, and it's been going on for a long time. But America was caught up in the war in Afghanistan, which was about money and opium, and so um, everybody was just misguided. And so now the unfortunate thing is that America, we might be burnt out on war. You get what I mean? But like sometimes you just gotta fight. And so like people, I think in this day and age, like even talking about COVID, I think COVID did wear people out, right? Like in a different, like an emotional type of way, you
Hmm.
know what I mean, in a physiological type of way that's like different than when you're working every day. It's kind of like you were just sitting and you just got like stressed out, and it's like, damn, how do I get unstressed from sitting? It's like
Yeah.
that's a difficult thing because it's like I'm not even doing nothing and I just feel like not okay.
You're right.
And so um with this fight that's going on, early on it was the BRICS movement. I don't know if you're familiar with that acronym of BRICS, but this is how China started to build its power was by creating its own alternative to um, things like the United Nations and like the Group of 20. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America. And together they just created an economic unit because you gotta remember, like when you're wanting political power, you have to have um, either technological or resources
Hmm.
um, on your side because you got to spend that to get power or to keep power, right?
Yeah.
So when you're by yourself and you're saying, yo, America, like, I'm not going to put up with you, America just be like, okay, okay. But when China started building up BRICS and remember South Africa, where's Elon Musk from? South
South
Africa.
Africa.
Where did Elon Musk get put on for his Tesla trucks initially? China.
Hmm.
What's inside of his technology? AI. And so, what I mean? It's interrelated, bro. It's interrelated.
That's crazy. Like it all connects.
It
That
can't not connect, bro.
no?
It can't not connect
Can I why though? Or like why you say that?
because then it can't exist. If
Ah,
it doesn't actually connect, it dies.
oh shit. That's crazy. I didn't like think of it like that or know like that. I don't know how to say that, but that's kind of cool.
It is an interesting thing,
It
man, and
is.
it's something that I didn't anticipate like arriving at as an understanding in life, man. But my education, like being liberal, like I really had to read a lot. I had to expose myself to a lot just to get through. And so you start seeing continuity. You start even in things that are opposite. Like think about this, man. Usually when you write an argument, you got to have a pro and
A
a con.
con.
Like you can't have an argument unless there's two sides.
That's true. Like you need always a counter argument to your paper,
Exactly.
which is I
So
don't know,
then it's
like
like,
how can you prove a point?
and so you
Oh
gotta
my
you gotta be
God.
sharing a point, which is always gonna be a commonality between parties, right? But it's
Hmm.
always like, how do you treat and work with that point? Is that a bad? Is that hot? Nobody wants to touch the point. No one wants to gather around the point. So then it's all like bad and polarizing, or is it like cool and calm? And is it like, damn, we all want to gather around this point? And sometimes that's like what fighting and emotions can be, right? Like that could be what's really used a lot in this system is like getting us to feel a common way. And then once we feel that way, it's like, we'll do this with that feeling.
Yeah. Holy shit, yeah. But other than that, my guy, like with like these coming up elections and all, I don't know if you've been deep into it or not yet, but like how you think how you looking at it so far?
Honestly, bro, like I don't get too caught up necessarily in the elections anymore
Okay.
because it really is such a it's like a racket, bro. And I mean like national here, like on a local level, like you definitely can use politics to make change, and that's one thing I love about Chicago is like that spirit is here, and that
Hmm.
inspires me. Um, you know, in terms of who wins and how that turns out, I'm very interested, especially with Joe Biden's performance as a president. I think that our politics have become more and more telling of like the general American people over time. Where
Hmm.
like early on it was just like reflective of specific groups, but I think enough people now are thinking about politics that the results are pretty reflective um, of us as a country in some sort of way. You know what I'm saying? So like if we ultimately have a president like Joe Biden that, um, I mean, he had his own controversies with his son and like this whole like money laundering
Oh, yes.
situation. Um, and then even just
It's
like the way he was with drugs and
yes,
policing
the cocaine that was found in the White
that White
House.
House, a
Come on,
lot
man.
of hypocrisy.
It is like, come on, man. But
Yeah, man.
it's
So,
and
I'm a,
one funny thing to me is like it's funny how like his dogs just keep biting the security guards. It's like
it's like, what is
why?
up with these dogs, bro?
Right.
Yeah, bro.
Something fishy's going on there, man. Literally.
It is, bro. It really is, man. And so with the politics and even like basically an interesting thing about even all of this stuff is the intelligent agencies. I don't know if you've looked into them much, but like there is politics that changes like, on election day, but
Hmm.
then there's politics that keep going through election day. And you got to think like how is that game played? Because the president's going to change.
Hmm.
Shit, a senator's going to die, but America still has to be here,
Damn. That's wild.
right? And
Yeah,
so,
that is pretty
you
wild.
know, there's
Especially
organizations that exist for that.
but the thing is like why do these things have to happen, Like
Ego, brother.
that's
Ego, and then the theory of like spiritual growth. I don't know if you looked into that.
no, not really. But just by the spiritual thing, I forgot what's it called, but I remember where Alex Jones and I forgot who he went with to like the woods, and he kind of recorded where he saw like all these elites. It's called the
Yeah, the Grove,
Bohemians.
Bohemian Grove.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
fraternal orders are real, man. I'm in a
That's
fraternity. So I know they real, fraternities
that's
and
crazy though.
rituals, bro.
That's crazy. And the thing is, like, are you think these type of rituals are like what they say it is, like satanic type of rituals or whatever, like like evil type of shit or
So the interesting thing about the word Satan and Lucifer in
mm-hmm,
these terminologies is that when you get into the studies, they don't have the same meaning that the public is controlled by. Lucifer is light, you know what I'm saying? And so that's generally, if you even look at how the Israelis are talking about the Muslims, it's coded terminology, right? And so um, if you are being enlightened, you are generally um, pushing the limits of being controlled by God absolutely. If you think about Adam eating the forbidden fruit, he was literally forbidden by God.
mm-hmm,
But for him to have knowledge, right? For him to have wisdom, he had to eat the fruit. That's how he knew. And that was the light. And so, you know, are these groups furthering those? I don't think that these groups are, not all groups clearly are furthering the light and enlightenment and knowledge of man, and just us being able to live a better life,
Mm-hmm.
because there is, out of this whole book, like it's the Torah, the Sefer Yetzirah, um, the Bible, but the Bible's like a rewritten format, man, and so that
Oh
goes into
yeah.
just like,
Like plenty of times I'm sure it has been like rewritten.
yeah, because I mean, there's multiple versions, but then like what is literally known as a Bible was just like agreed upon by like a group of men. You get what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
there's like stories outside, like there's a collection of stories that the Bible comes from, but the whole thing wasn't given. And even how it was shared over time, like it was not allowed to be told the same way. And that has to do with things like, if you're familiar with like the Kabbalah, Kabbalah, and then there's also Cabala. And so they seem similar.
Mm-hmm.
They're both using magic, which is also something that's similar to psychology and design, propaganda. You get what I'm saying? Um, and through that, ultimately, what the Kabbalah thinks is over time we are gonna grow and become one, but we have to like go through these eras of like strife, and it's like kind of already been written. Like it's kind of like one of those things where even though we're caught up in like the play of what's happening right now, like there's a greater story that's happening around us, and we're
Mm-hmm.
just caught up in the temporary, not knowing that even when we're trying to be random and spontaneous, that we're still getting to this eventual point
Like
where
little
we're
do
just
we
gonna
know.
be like one. Yeah, we will be one, but it may not be like 6 billion of us, right?
Uh-huh.
It might just be a few thousands, a couple million, you know, and especially with the fact that like population control is real. So you have like real spiritual developments that are happening, to man, and because we create what's inside of our mind, you also have all of these external influences that are kind of pushing us the same way in its own type of way. We're talking about AI, we're talking about social media, we're talking about all these things that in a way has connected our consciousness, has connected our experience. Because just think, bro, like there used to be populations that never saw one another,
Mm-hmm.
never talked to one another, didn't even know each other existed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like I'm sure that's still happening right now, you know?
Yeah, there has to be
Yeah,
some population out there deep somewhere.
like it's on
I
like
mean,
Amazon or like in the
yeah,
jungle or
for real
something
though.
like the
That would
tribals,
be the, yep,
which is like holy shit. Like or even like that gets to do even like with the hollow theory, like the hollow earth theory, like what if there's actually some inner world, inside earth,
exactly.
right? That little did we know, like for what if the dinosaurs
Exactly.
are still there?
And some of these schools of thought and ideology, they have layers to them, and sometimes it can be a figurative hollow earth, it could be a literal hollow earth, just getting level set on, are we dealing with material, physical, or metaphysical, energetic things? Um, because to some, humans aren't the only living beings even on Earth, but because of how we perceive, one another, we don't see the other energy forms that surround us. You know what I mean?
hmm
Um,
Because
and
I think
so,
like I think what people see is like we're like the top tier of like the food chain, you can say.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's, even with like concepts of geometry, you can't perceive the shape if you don't have enough distance from the shape to see the whole thing, and so um with our perception, and that it is built on surviving in our form, we do believe that we're the highest, we're at the top of the food chain. But if there's something else out there that's really guiding, it lives longer than us, it's already been here before we even got here, you know, then who's to know what exactly um, is the most powerful force here,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Like so much can we do, and like I know I was talking about it in a previous episode, but it's like, how like pretty much we're very like delicate, like our bodies are very delicate.
Right,
So it's funny to still think that we're like the top of the food chain, but yeah, like with like one, I don't know, touch of a broken bone, or like, just something could be small enough that would just like mess your whole body up, dude.
right,
And it's
right.
crazy because like I know people that like literally could just be like from a simple, I don't know, like a fall or just like a sprained knee or something. Then later on they just have, other effects on it, and it's like, damn, like we used to, go and hunt our food, run around barefoot, with like make our own weapons and all, and now it's like processed food, and you know, we're all now it's all given to us, and it's like not not the way it should always be.
And it's killing people.
It
Like
is
quite literally, the diet is leading, to diabetes and
high
high blood pressure,
cholesterol, yeah.
cholesterol. Yeah, yeah,
But like going back to like how you just quickly mentioned about the population control, like yeah, like COVID happened, like it destroyed, like people died and all, and but yeah, like it's still the problem. So like how much of it did it really solve, like
right.
if yet like the future is still like in like midair, like floating now, like what is there to be
And those are
left?
the
Oh yeah,
and I
yeah.
like to think that those sort of questions are the ones that we need to be asking, especially when we live in a world where people believe in elitism and like other certain people are better fit to be leaders than others. Well, ultimately, if these people who are supposed to be best fit are incapable of, forming the right solutions, like we can't keep voting for the same type of people. We can't keep putting the same type of people in power because I mean that just gets us the same result. And I know it's tricky because we follow behavior. Um, we just we sometimes mimic and emulate. Do we try to emulate others? So breaking the biases in society um, will be challenging, but I think that ultimately there's a lot that could help us really make the change that we need.
No, yeah, for sure. um just one quickly last topic before we actually move on, but it's more like of like I think what's kind of needed to be talked is pretty much what's going on right now, with the war over there in Israel and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. I mean, I really am not really much like on top of it, but from like what I really know, it's just like it's been kind of going on for a few days already. A lot of people are getting killed and stuff, like, but do you know a little more on it, my guy?
I have a understanding of geopolitics, which is what it is, to some extent. And geopolitics is just like geographic politics that's based off of location, geography. I mean, you can have micro geopolitics like here, like someone thinks this neighborhood is theirs. Well, I mean, somebody else might think that neighborhood is there, and then they just fight it out for the neighborhood, right? I mean, that's basically what is happening
Over there, like
in
in Israel?
Israel, formerly Palestine.
Hmm.
And I think that it's a very interesting time. And I know it's controversial to discuss it, but, you know, when you read um, the Torah and the Talmud, which is like the base books for some to Judaism, um, Israel has several meanings. Israel is a place in the heart, Israel is the name of the father Jacob, who had the tribe, the 12 sons of Israel. And in the scripture, some could say that Israel is a real place promised to the children of Israel, meaning the seeds of Jacob.
Mhm.
And so basically, that is what is Zionism. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, um, but
No.
Zionism
Uh-huh.
is the movement that led to um, Israel occupying Palestine and reclaiming it. And the reason why I'm gonna say reclaim is just because, like, if you look at if everything is about historical um, reference, like you could just search like when did Jacob become Israel, right?
Mhm.
And you'll see that Jacob becomes Israel in Genesis 32:27. So like what was before Jacob became Israel? Like, you know, what what was Egypt? Like what were all these different places?
Mhm.
Um and so if there is a prehistory that's being denied for a preferred story, it kind of fits into everything that we're talking about. Because if ultimately Israel is successful, just think about what that means. That means that we lived through we lived through a modern genocide that became accepted. Like they literally moved there, killed the people that were living there,
Mhm.
and then they had a whole campaign on like get on our side, and people just helped them finish the job. And then we're all supposed to just move on. Like our friends that we know who are Palestinian and American, right? Like that land of Palestine just never existed. Like, what are we gonna do for them? Like, are we just gonna deny their ethnicity, like their nationality? Like, what is that? So I think it's just a tricky thing, but it is all interrelated because again, just like the alignment of forces, you had the British government in America help finance the occupying of Palestine and claiming Israel, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of hands in the pot. And then you have people who are empathetic to colonialism and occupying like land. And so I think that this is that thing that really does get the fire burning. I was just asking someone, what do you want to do in the military when you get recruited?
Uh-huh. And what
You
they
know,
said.
so they don't want it at all. And that's why I'm like, yo, people are likely tired. But then, there's a lot of things that can be used to fight war. And that's maybe another topic. But like the instruments of war are interesting. Um, and so
Like I know, like it's for some reason I know there has to be a war for some reason. Like
it is, man, because it moves the foreign exchange market, man. And so people make profit on war because,
yeah,
money value changes. So just think like right now, money's being invested in all these wars, right?
yeah,
And then when wars end, usually there's some sort of trial where people are forced to pay back money that was assumed for war. Think about
which is
Germany after World War II.
yeah, and I can already imagine the one that's in Ukraine still happening right now.
Exactly. And I mean, even when you listen to the way that they talk about it, they talk about Ukraine 2.0. And so that's the thing that is kind of over people's heads. And even with what happened in the Middle East, the goal was to rebuild it, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
literally what they were saying. They thought that they basically, it's all imperialism, bro. People are just running up in other people's shit and saying, this is mine. And you got to accept it. And
But
sometimes that could be good and bad. That could be like China telling Hong Kong, like, yo, you're our country. That could be like Russia telling Crimea, like, you're our country. But it's like, what does a country even mean?
right, it's just I don't know. It's just a piece of land, literally just being called a
Maybe,
name. I mean,
but a country is also in space, right? The International Space Station, that literally is not a piece of land, but that piece of equipment that comes from a specific country is that country's territory. You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
Cause like it
What is
came from them, you know. It's made out of from like wherever it came from. You feel me? Like,
Yeah, and so I think with the Israel Hamas thing, it's clearly already it was kind of like Black Lives Matter, like but on a whole another level, bro, because it is that deep, bro. Like, I mean, they've
and they're
already
going
been so
extreme
successful.
though.
Yeah, I mean, bro, just listen to how they're talking about the Palestinians, man. Like you can hear just the absolute racism and some of the way people from the Israel power structure are talking about, Palestinians just like being like, yo, I don't care about these people. Like, it's just like, wow, how am I supposed to have empathy for people who have no empathy?
Right, and like be able to talk to like people about like how they're talking about them. You feel me? Like you got
Right.
like where they exploded like the hospital. You know, like a few, people that died in there. Like a few dozen people died, which is like holy shit. You know, like I guess there's no heart to it, but I feel like right now it's more of like the pride between them. No, we don't.
Yeah. And so we're talking about spirituality. We were talking about like singularity. We're talking about a lot of things that fit this concept of the world that you might be interested in called Babylon. And so Babylon's like this concept of control and like just society where we pursue like the wrong sort of ends in life. Like we pursue um, ego things, we pursue material, like things that don't make us better off inherently. And so um, you kind of look at what is happening and just think like, is this for the betterment of everyone that this is happening?
Um, I'm not too sure, man. I mean,
Right.
like I feel like there's a lot of bad things happening, but like I guess at the end, like it or not, to some certain people, there's something that's coming out of this. Like
Exactly.
I feel like for them it's like, yeah, sure, we're gonna lose our people or some of our people, but yet again, like it's okay, we can rebuild, we can, I guess reproduce, and of course, again, population control, I guess falls and it gets involved in that type of shit too.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately they're putting Palestinians in internment camps. Like they're literally pushing back the border of like Palestine, and so that is literally controlling people. You know what I'm saying? And then they have a whole security state that's set up. And I mean, I think you should definitely look into both sides of it because a lot of these things it really does come down to once you have a working mind, you just making sense of it. And I think that most people with a working mind are probably in hard places constantly in life because there's so many things that are going wrong that don't have to be wrong. And like we have all the resources for things to be going right. So then when things are constantly going wrong, right, it's like who's benefiting and why?
Yeah, most definitely. And I feel, and it's just like I feel like it's something like I think everybody should kind of be more aware of. Um, and I guess just kind of based on the conversation, I feel like I guess people tend to say like politics and like religion don't go together, don't align together, but like I feel like
They do.
it does.
Because
And
they're, I mean, almost, I'm sorry.
oh no, I'm sorry, go on, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember like early law was like really coming from the church, you know what I'm saying? Like not necessarily personal law like property law, but like civil law, like how do you live your life? You know what I mean? That was like originally like the clergy, like in the Roman Empire, like they were determining the Catholic Church would determine a lot of like how you should and shouldn't live. Like a lot of the ethical ways of living came through most religious quote what we understand as religion because religion isn't everything, but in the world that we live in a lot of things are referred to as religion.
Hmm. I feel like it's more like of a moral, like
Yeah, and that's kind of like what law could be about, but then the tricky thing is who has the moral compass. And I mean that was like the tricky thing about uh having like a monarchy, right? Is like whenever the king changed, the queen changed,
hmm
then the idea of the people changed because now you have to literally fit the ego of the ruler. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes America can seem like that with how people worship the president and other political leaders.
hmm
But you know, um, we're all human. So even the most perfect human presumably would have a flaw that would make him not perfect and not above another human.
Yeah.
But we don't live like that.
No, we don't. Just based on a lot of judgment and stuff.
I know, man. That's why I love the like not a stoner part of my brand because it's part that too. It's being like, yo, like we're all the same. Like whether you do it or not, man. Like I'm not really here to cast a stone on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm really here to connect with the individuals on a human level, and then try to affect some change in our communities that could really be for the better. You know?
No, for sure, my guy, and that's just a little good way to actually transition to something else that we actually wanted to talk to here in the show tonight, and it's mostly like just you, my guy, just your backstory of like how you came up with the daily roller, the smoke responsibility social, like tell us a little bit more, man.
Yeah, so Daily Roller really came about from a lot of the things that we're talking about right now, man. Just like my understanding of politics, society, technology, all these different things, and also just health. You know, being in a position where ultimately striving for success in my life, being prescribed Vyvanse by a doctor to focus and to operate, but not getting the opportunity to be given cannabis by the doctor,
hmm
you know, and just like kind of seeing with my own eyes, like the effects of getting dependent on things like Vyvanse versus like people who use cannabis, you know, and even just personal experience on the two different substances. So having that experience really um, made me think different, made me feel different. Like, yo, I don't have to be taking Vyvanse for ADHD. I could just consume cannabis like a good strain and know what that strain is, and that'll help me focus and do my work. And yeah, right now I'm smoking it, but you know, there's other forms of consuming cannabis that still have the same effect without those awful side effects that the other stuff does. So having that plus seeing how the Colorado market coming online for legality was being portrayed by Fox News back in 2014. So I used
hmm
to watch a lot of Fox News. I saw that they were really making it like stonerish, like people disoriented, like oh my gosh, like just making really light of it. But in my personal life, I was using it to um, not have to take Vyvanse and to be successful. So then it's just like, yo, if we're in this moment in time, someone had once told me, like, you know, follow policy changes. A lawyer once told me that to know where the world is going. So seeing literally laws change behind cannabis, it's automatically like that came in my mind. I'm like, okay, so laws are changing, it's being misrepresented.
Yeah.
And then when you read the reason why it's happening and being a black man, I can see the racial side of it too. And I'm just like, man, this is messed up. If there's going to be a better future, like there has to be a solid representation of what like the market is more like, which is diverse. It's individuals like you and I. We're hardworking. You know, we have multiple interests. We're literally talking about technology, politics, art, and fashion and design. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like vegging out and just consuming mindless like television, bro. Like that's not.
Yeah, no, hell yeah, no,
And so
no,
Daily Roller, bro. So that's literally how I came up with Daily Roller. I started in let me tell you, I registered the domain January 10th of 2014.
nice. That's what's up, man.
And then Smoke Responsibly Social, it came about because it's the same, it's like basically the same thing, same energy,
Hmm.
but in a different form. You know, with Daily Roller, we do a lot. We're known for like our clothing, right? Like our style, our design. Um, and so for Smoke Responsibly Social, the whole point was getting a community to come together in person to talk about important things for the community. Like, you know, I spend thousands of dollars at the dispensary. Like, how do I know what is good and what is not? You know,
Hmm.
I'm also from out of town. Where I'm
Yeah,
from, like
interesting.
cannabis. Oh, I'm
Sorry, but the interesting thing is that you're from Indiana, correct?
exactly. I'm from
Yeah,
Indiana.
yeah, which is
So, you
interesting,
know,
man. Like another question to you, I wanted to actually bring up. I don't want cut you off or go off topic really, but it's like just coming from a kid from Indiana, like why come to Illinois and stuff, like I'm sure you could have like gone through another whole different state probably.
yeah, honestly, I came here for the reason that I got job offers here after college. So before I graduated, I had some offers here, and I'm like,
Okay.
yo, this go, we go get a job. And so I'm like, all right. But I had already started Daily Roller and published my first book. And where I'm from, it's like the 13th largest city in America. So like, yeah, if I'm successful there, I can definitely, you know, be more successful in other places. A greater challenge would be going to like the third largest city in America and becoming a successful entrepreneur, right? And so um, with that sort of success, it really can change your life because I mean it's way more international. Just even the things that you have seen us make possible this year is just really it's not always possible in other places, right? Like I couldn't have
Hmm.
partnered with us in Indiana, right? Um, or okay, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So it's just really one of those things, me trying to do the math on what makes sense in the long run and taking a leap of faith that I can make it happen. And it's been happening, bro. Like well, we're doing this podcast because the work's been working, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, literally, bro, and like on both ends, like how you were just mentioning before we even hit that record button, which is like, it was part of like your vision, like you on the
Yeah,
podcast now, bro, and that's what's up, and for
thank you.
me, it's more like more exposure, but more acknowledgement and more just acknowledgement for my audience. You feel me? Like it's crazy, like I'm sure from your just in your personal experience as well as like just looking back on like how you started until looking now and probably even just seeing the possibilities of like the future of like the outcome if you just keep on doing, you feel me? Like it's just
Absolutely,
it's
bro.
just like proudness of yourself, you feel me? Like you got to take that shit, you know, like in
Yeah,
a good
and
way.
I think that's something that a lot of people are missing in their life. Honestly, I see a lot of people kind of not have know what their passion or like how to invest deeper in life. You know, a lot of people are kind of one foot in, one foot out with this thing, man. But when you start something, and you know, for me, it was all those things I told you. But like,
Hmm.
I had never done this. I'd never been an entrepreneur. So I didn't even know if I was right, right? So it's just like having the um, courage to bet on yourself. And then when you do that, to learn how to celebrate yourself, man, because that like adds to life in such a like special way, bro. Because even when people may recognize you, they may not fully see everything you had to do to make it happen. So if you're always looking for other people's congratulations, it may never feel full, right? But when you're like, damn, man, I remember when all I could do was brand a hat. Now I can make a hat from scratch, bro. And I could sew it or I could have a really great class manufacturer do it for me. And so
Hmm.
just things as small as that is awesome. But it wasn't like it was all easy and cake work. Even though it might just seem like simple artifacts, man, because ultimately, um, you know, when you are creating something original and unique to yourself, you'll have to deal with people not understanding it, and then that's going to do something to you as well. And so just dealing with knowing how to have misunderstanding in your life and it not be fatal, you know.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel that. I do feel that on that level. Hell yeah. But at the
And
same time, I feel like for those, it's just, just say fuck them and just keep doing you, bro. Because at the end of the day, it's like eventually people are gonna start fucking with your shit. And I'm not gonna lie, I got them socks, bro. I fuck with them socks.
the free cannabis socks.
Yeah, they're like soft and nice. I fuck with
Thank you,
them.
bro.
Yeah, bro. I
And,
like
and
that.
and that's important to me, man. Um, because just like you're like, hey, you could have moved to any state, like you can do fashion in a number of ways, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's a medium, and that's how I use it as a medium, right? Free cannabis socks, free cannabis tie, not a stoner on the hat, achieve the
Hmm.
pursuit on the hat. You know what I mean? It's a platform, and so, um, I really thought about my approach with Daily Roller, and it didn't happen overnight by any means. And even still, like there's things getting put together that it's new learning. It's like
Hmm.
the first time getting a repetition in. Like it's Smoke Responsibly Social. At the beginning of this year, I had never put on 9 consecutive events back to back each month. And then also write blog posts about that. Like,
Hmm.
that's a whole nother experience on top of all the work that actually goes into the physical moment of the event. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting, bro.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting, man, and especially like once you know that it's actually like your passion, and especially knowing that you're doing something that you love doing, it's even more like of a greater achievement and stuff, even within the little things.
Exactly. And the passion really comes from wanting people to have more accessibility to cannabis
Hmm.
because, I mean, we're getting prescribed other things that are not as helpful for us. um, and just understanding that the law itself, like the funny thing about it, everything that we're talking about is that the law literally says that there's no medical use for cannabis. Like the law, this concept that we allow to control us literally states an obvious fact that people live by. Just think about that. And that also just like drives me, to live in a world where that happens. That's just like kind of like reclaiming claiming a country to be yours and just everybody accepting like, oh yeah, we know that it ain't yours, but like we're gonna act like it's yours all the time. Like
Yeah,
we
like
know that it's actually medicinal, but we're all just gonna act like it doesn't, no matter how many years the Chinese and all other cultures use cannabis and teas and
yeah,
tinctures and oils. You know what I'm saying? After
like
1937.
no, but the thing is, like, I feel like people tend to forget, like, it's been here more than we have.
I know, bro.
Like how many generations of people have like smoked or even just used it as a remedy to their own culture,
Exactly.
like it just had to be our government that tried to find a way to tax it, man. Literally.
Tax it, but then criminalize it. That's really the taxes wouldn't be an issue, man, because like, you pay to play in life. That's just how it goes. But to
Hmm.
criminalize it is like a whole nother level, bro. That's like taking it, you know, that's like if they counted how many breaths you took each day and then they're like, look, you take one more breath, we're taking
You're
your ass to
done. You're
jail.
done. You're out.
Yeah, it's like, yo, this plant, if you consume this shit, we're taking you to jail. Like, what?
You gonna be
I
like
didn't even,
half taking the last toke, you know? What? You gotta make
bro.
sure they gotta make sure you didn't take that full last toke, man.
Right, half just a half pull.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. You know,
you
then that's
saw
how
that
life is.
half of that blunt burning. You saw that.
They're like, we can't just have you being free.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But like just knowing the fact like how people just have fought had fought for like cannabis rights, man. Like it's because it gets to do also with their own rights, like why
That's what
why
I'm
does
saying, brother.
why does
That's what
why
I'm
does the
saying.
government or like my job have to like tell me what can I do out of I don't know, like job hours or certain things, like why can I not be my own self in my own house?
Yeah, the same government that traffics and does all that. Like, I mean, that's the thing, and that's why politics does matter. Civic involvement does matter when you're having these sort of conversations and these sort of movements, because those are the vehicles to make change in society.
Hmm.
And so, when we just accept that entity like a government can control our lives, when a democracy is supposed to be what is called a social contract, and that means that as citizens we're consciously giving up certain powers to allow the government to have certain powers. That's literally what a democracy is supposed to be built on. But when that gets like to the point where people think that the government is like the leader and we're the followers, that's how you know we lost, bro. Because like remember, they're founding fathers, not like a founding government, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
when did the people start getting led by the machine? That's just like when did people start getting led by AI, like social media, you
Yeah,
know?
social media has actually been, a big impact in a lot of people, and it's especially it's impacting on these young kids, man, where the impact is not like the right direction.
Unfortunately, it does seem that it has negative consequences because it is also tied into um, things like capitalism, right? Social capital, real capital. So, by way of these platforms, people can get motivated to do things that they normally wouldn't, you know what I'm saying, just for what that capital could be on the other side, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Exploitation.
But I actually wanted to ask you, my guy, what's the background? Because I see it's a lot of pink action going on behind you.
Right, right. Yeah, we got the announcement, you know what I'm saying? On November 14th, we'll be having a Smoke Responsibly social at OK Willing, discussing medical marijuana policies on a national level with Debbie Chergai. She's the executive director of Americans for Safe Access out in DC, and they played a big role in getting cannabis legalized in DC. And so they work across the country,
Hmm.
and it fits into what we're talking about, man. Like just developing the consciousness, getting people activated in the right way. You know what I mean? Bringing the knowledge and the information directly to you, because sometimes it could be speculative. Like people could be like, oh, cannabis, can that really be medical? You know what I mean? Like we've had a doctor, we've had a pharmacist, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
People think you can't even consume and be responsible. So like we just got a whole responsible thing moving, right? Like we got quality conversation, good locations, sharing knowledge, and that's
Hell
gonna be
yeah,
super dope.
hell yeah, my guy. But like, how how do you get in contact with these people? If you don't mind me asking, like, you just like Google, like, I don't know, like, you just how do you get them? You just.
I just approach them, bro. I just let them know what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and that's the importance in a name. I know it's hard for people to always remember the full thing or say the full thing, but intentionality and thinking about like what am I trying to do for the culture? I'm trying to say that we can smoke responsibly and be social, right? Because like there's no consumption lounges in Chicago, right? Like there's still a stereotype of like what happens when people like us get together.
Yeah.
So by
Uh,
framing it in responsibility, I mean, it seems difficult to say no to someone who's wanting to connect literally the industry. We done Illinois Normal, we done people from just different sphere of the landscape. Next year we're gonna be doing more. So it's just uh, people being down with the message, which even if you hear it, you're like, yeah, smoke responsibly social. Some people, they'll be like, I never did anything responsible. It's like, all right, bro, this could be your
Ain't
opportunity.
even like that. Relax. No.
All right.
um, but no, hell
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's
bro.
pretty chill.
Yeah, it is. It's very chill, bro. Just based on, firsthand experience, I
Yes,
love the
thank you.
events you guys pull, man. Great information. And I feel like every conversation has just been getting, stronger and more involvement, which is amazing, and I'm sure that's pretty much one of the goals for you. Um, but another thing is pretty much like, is there another like goal, or like what is like in the further future, like what you see with these events that you be doing?
So next year, we're going to do a cannabis nonprofit expo week from May 12th to May 18th. We got Dale Scott Jones from Oaksterdam University flying into Chicago. We got the real Freeway Rick Ross coming in to Chicago to talk about the war on drugs and social equity. So instead of it being spread across several months, it's just going to get more concentrated
Mm-hmm.
and just more or less do what we do now, but bring all these organizations to Chicago. Because you saw what Jason said he wished he could have been here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that would have been great. And so people are very tuned in once they have interacted with the platform. They really like it. And so next year we'll do that. We got some discussion with OK to keep working together there. So maybe I'll have more to talk about in the winter about that relationship. And the interesting thing was I really started Smoke Responsibly Social purely for the conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the social part, was the conversation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so um, once I got it started, people started asking about different things, like, hey, can I consume there? Like, is there this, there, that, and that? So that made me start developing it to where you see it now, like moving the venue, having consumption access
Mm-hmm.
um, in the conversation, because sometimes people don't want to have an adult conversation, bro. They just want to vibe out, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and be around people who like the same thing as them. So I understand that, and I see value even in individuals that have that sort of preference. So as a designer, it's just like getting experience that that person can come to. You know what I'm saying? And that seems like it'd be like a okay, because the lounge is pretty chill. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's great. They got windows. And it's already just like made to consume in. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's it's progressing very well. You'll probably see us go out of state too, just because uh, the appeal to people, and people have asked me to take it to different states, and it's kind of built to be mobile, as you've already seen. Like we didn't already moved it around the city. That's kind of like the
Yeah.
first test. You know what I'm saying? The next thing is just like, can it move other places? And it can. We have similar guests, different guests. It really, it's me that's reaching out to these people. So it's not like I'm hiring like a talent agent to, give me some speakers or something like that. So that makes it a bit more sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
because I understand how to approach that. You know.
That's what's up, my guy. And you got any more any stories for us? Any stoner stories, personal experience, anything, my
Uh,
guy?
I mean, I don't know if I have like really stoner stories or anything like that. I mean, I guess things that would be funny would just be, my early experiences of consuming cannabis and just like not being able to hold my stomach down, man, from coughing. And I just remember my friends finding that super funny. And even to myself, like that is like pretty ridiculous. If I get coughing, even though I consume, I know people think that if you consume like
Hmm.
regularly, like your lungs will adapt, but bro, sometimes it don't.
Oh hell no! I still be getting them coughs, man. It's if
Right.
if you
So
ain't coughing, it ain't hitting.
you're
So
right for real though. So that's I still have a little stomach sometime. And yeah, I think the funnest stories are happening right now at the socials because like people are consuming and we're having a good time and
mhm,
just like learning things. So um, all the stories that are happening in there have been great. I think the most interesting one recently was the social that I had with Dank. Just like it was my first one, probably consuming like immediately before like going through the interview and all of that.
mhm.
And so just like that was that professionally, that was a very interesting social to have and experience. But I made it through it. I thought I did awful, but people got some value out of it, and still came back. So
Hell yeah, bro.
I
I
don't
mean,
know if that works, but that's just what comes to mind.
hey, you still got something to say, my guy. So I mean, fuck it, we'll let it slide. But no, I feel like just everything that we're just doing, man. I think it's just a learning experience. And of course we always strive to do the best the next time. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I try to approach even from the beginning of my work with Daily Roller. This like a scientist, right? Is that you have a hypothesis,
mm-hmm,
and then like your actions are your experiment. You're trying to test the validity of that. And for me, I always try to keep that in mind because there could be points where things are not worth the effort you have, the investment that you have to put into them. So if you just keep in mind, at least for me, if I keep in mind, like, hey, like ultimately this is all experimental, all learning, you know what I'm saying? But then you got to actually look at the results. You can't just be like, you know, constantly churning, but not evaluating. So definitely it's all learning. It's cool. It's dope. Um, and it's a lot of fun.
for sure, my guy. Hell yeah. And I think you got anything else for us to say or any questions before we wrap it up, my boy?
Um, I mean, I feel like you've shared some of the things that I was interested in just doing podcasts because I never done like a podcast like this. And I know a lot of people often are like, "Oh, you should do a podcast. You should do one," but like you kind of are share with me, just it can be a lot. No, like just basically you gotta do these, then you gotta upload them. Like what goes into you executing your podcast?
Yeah, no, my guy. I mean, I shit. From where I started till now, I mean, I used to just do straight audio. Um,
Mm,
but low key, that was just because it was just more of my comfort zone. I thought that video editing used to be like a drag or just a hassle. But now that I'm, just YouTubing now and doing just now video podcasting, I kind of got a little bit better at it and just based on just personal experience and just people talking to and stuff, it's like it's not that bad as it seems. It's just take it easy little by little. Don't always overdo or overwork the editing, you
right,
know. So, it's the small things and like I said recently right now, it's a learning process. So as much as frustration I could get with myself and stuff, like just how sometimes I don't get the way I wanted to get it,
mm,
but it's more like take it easy, find a way, like use more resources. You feel me? Like don't just limit
mm.
yourself because I feel like the only limitation you get is yourself, like within
Exactly.
this it's like the creativity, it's like the freelance, it's like there's no like limits to this, there's no right or wrong, it's just the different
Absolutely.
this is the different perspectives of like what everyone thinks. And yeah, like
Exactly.
and what I learned from this is like not everyone is gonna agree with the perspective you're showing or say, and not everyone is
Yep.
gonna pretty much like I guess fuck with your shit, but like you're
Exactly.
you're still gonna have like that small group or that audience that, will still catch on and, will
Yes,
support you because like
absolutely.
little do we know, you have, supporters and audience that you don't even knew you'll get, and it's crazy to me, like coming from the point of view, like for my podcast, like 12 different countries, are listening to, me and whoever I bring to, and it's amazing to me how sometimes, might not get the recognition a lot here, but the goal isn't to get recognized a lot or right away. It's more like the message of what everyone brings to the table here and to the show.
100%. That's how I feel too about my work, bro.
So yes,
100%.
so it's more like I love to just tell a lot of people, it's like don't get discouraged, and just keep on striving, especially if it's like how bad do you really want it,
Exactly.
you
If it's
know
really your thing, you can't give up on it, bro. You just got to get better.
yeah, you have to, yeah, and because at the end of the day it's like you don't want to be at a point where it's like, damn, what if I still stuck with it, or like, damn,
Exactly.
like,
That's why you got to get it that earnest effort.
yeah, you gotta always be hungry, like stay hungry, man. Like if you're not at the top, do everything you can to be there, and once you're at it, you gotta find yourself a new, like, how can I say, like a new mission, like don't 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 stay where you're gonna be comfortable at, because you never know.
And find something to always be pushing you forward. Yeah, I try to find those sort of things. I try to anchor certain things into the future now. Now that I'm older, I'm 31,
Oh
and
shit.
so
For real?
yeah,
Dude, I thought you were like way younger, my guy.
yeah, no man.
Oh shit, that's what's up.
And
Nice, my guy.
so with just now being 31 and learning to think more long term, it's
Hmm.
just whether it's AI and being involved in how that's developing because that's like future, right? Just
Hmm.
finding something that is gonna be around for a while and then try to just figure out um how can you get involved with that. And that's kind of like a perspective I picked up in college. Like, if you want to learn, you want to be at the cutting edge of knowledge, right? You want to be where like it's actually developing and things are happening, so that you can continue to grow.
No, yeah, for sure, my guy. But I mean, I think other than that, I think that's a wrap, my guy.
How old did you think I was?
Bro, I thought you were like in your 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Do I just
swear.
look young or what?
Yeah, I guess so, but I honestly did not expect you to be, 30, man. But holy
Yeah,
shit,
man.
that's what's up, bro.
31. And how
Again,
about you? How old are you?
oh, I'm 23, bro.
Okay, dope, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Um, ag- Again, my guy, thanks for coming to.
Congrats to you, man. Like you definitely keep this up, bro. Like you're in a good spot, man. You're
I really
doing good work, bro.
appreciate it, my guy. But like with me, I feel like it's time is always the enemy with me. Like but a lot of people always say you're young, you keep doing what you're doing, like you'll figure it out. But it's like backstory to myself is like I have a family, I have a kid. So
Oh,
just
dope.
like my prospect, my pros.
Congrats, bro.
Thanks, my guy. But just like the perspective of like what I have, it's just like I felt like I wasted time, and now it's like I'm trying to gain that time that I wasted, and then try to continue with it and all. But I just keep doing what I'm doing, bro. I mean, sometimes like it's just there's just slow days sometimes, but again, it's like it wouldn't be a good story or a good like achievement if it wasn't that easy. You feel me? Like I felt like if it was
Absolutely.
easy, then everybody should be doing this.
100, man. You usually get what you sacrifice in life, man. So, you gotta put something in, and once you stick with it,
Hmm.
you'll get it back in full. And I think in terms of just being an entrepreneur and starting that, the younger the better, because I mean, yeah, you might be 23, bro. I kind of, but don't really remember 23. Like I feel like time just moves that fast, man. Like before you look up, especially when you're working on something, you
Mhm.
don't have enough time, bro. Like I wish I had like 20 more hours in this day. I got so much work I still need to get done. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, hell yeah, I
it
feel
just
you.
happens like that, brother.
Yeah, and I feel like just like them late nights, just sticking it through, it's like rather have less sleep now than, than later
Not being
on.
able to sleep later because you ain't got nothing to sleep on.
Right. So, I love talking to everybody, just picking out their brain and just knowing what they think of in life, man, because everyone thinks differently, and it's what's not better than to smoke a little weed and get to know everybody's point of view on things.
Right, right. Hey, smoke
And
responsibly social, bro.
yeah, and that's the thing with Canna Vibe here is like it's not just like us just smoking and shit, nah. And that's what a lot of people tend to, I guess, think of how it is, but it's really not. It's more like get everybody involved, get everybody up to date with like what's actually going on, because we're always distracted by the media. We're always distracted by a lot of shit that doesn't really mean shit at all, or it isn't really relevant or necessary to know.
Energy harvesting.
So.
Hope there was some value in there, bro.
No, hell yeah. But yeah, my guy, I mean, again, we just keep doing what we doing and that's the way to go, man. Again, my boy, thanks for sliding here to the podcast, to the Canna Vibe podcast, to
Hey,
everybody's
thank
favorite 420 podcast.
yes, yes, my boy Chino for the
Eh,
good vibes, man.
Hell yeah, as always, man. Always down to work with you more. If you ever
Thank you.
down to, we'd love to have you again in the pod later on in life, see how everything's going.
Okay.
You
Well,
know.
we got a lot that's coming, and I definitely would be excited to share what's going on with the Cannabis Expo, nonprofit expo next year. I think that's going to be an awesome um, experience for the community, bro.
Mhm. Hell
And
yeah.
I
I'm
look forward
pretty
to coming together,
Hell yeah, and I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out to be.
right? And then I mean, we got this year we got the Chirac Social that's happening next weekend. If this is coming out on Friday, so hey,
Hmm.
if you look for some plans on the 21st, meet us at Replay. Got some tattoo artists, consumption tent, just a vibe. Collaborating with Zochi for Smoke Responsibly, Zochi and a Smoke Responsibly Chirac Social. Then
Hmm.
on the 31st, we got a Smoke Responsibly Social guided conversation at Redline VR with Cannabis Equity Illinois. And so when like I mentioned, when I started Smoke Responsibly Social, it was really for the conversations. And so I had these 9 conversations already planned out. But I did not know Zochi at that time. And so it, just collaborations grew.
Hmm.
And also I didn't have a lot of the relationships that I have now when I started. And so just from within the industry, people have gotten interest. People have been like, "Oh, like what if you brought Smoke Responsibly Social to Rockford?" Like, because education is needed a lot of places, bro.
Oh hell yeah, it's most definitely, and the more we spread it, no matter what way, especially like in this episode, a ton of knowledge just got spreaded today,
Yeah, we talk about
and
a lot.
yeah, we did, we did, and I'm sure we gave all these people a good show.
And I also didn't know Dank either. Dank plugged us into mid lane, so like a lot of people, the goal was a community, and clearly you and I met, and so the Smoke Responsibly socials have really created a community. Fortunately, and I mean that's in since March, bro. That's when we started.
That's what's up, my guy.
Thank
But
you, bro.
that's what I
Thank you,
said.
man. It's been a journey.
Hell yeah, and let's keep on writing that journey, my guy. We all
Thank
got a
you, bro. I
story to tell.
appreciate right. I appreciate the vibes and the enthusiasm, man. And I hope I see you out in those 2 events.
So yeah, for sure. And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap it up here. Until
See,
next
now I
time.
wish I would have sat out here. The lights way better.
Well,
All right,
that's it,
brother.
ladies and gentlemen. Have a good rest of your day. Stay
Take
high.
care, fam. You do the same. Hey, yeah, right. Stay high. Smoke responsibly.